Bonjour à tous et bienvenue sur la chaîne de Fouini Life. Fouini pour vous servir les gars. Aïe aïe aïe, je viens de voir une interview. Aïe, j'ai un décor différent les gars. Ah bah oui, je suis en déplacement. Donc qui dit déplacement dit filmer avec mon téléphone, mais on est là la famille. On est présent pour cet événement qui va être démentiel. Comme je vous l'ai déjà dit, je me délecte de l'avant-combat. Pour moi, un match, ça se fait une semaine avant. Tous les petits détails, c'est l'apéritif, les gars. Et j'ai vu une interview de l'entraîneur de Martin Bakole, très intéressante, que je vais vous mettre juste après sous-titré en français, dans laquelle il évoque le combat avec Ajagba. Il évoque pas mal de points. Alors, il évoque en premier le camp d'entraînement qu'il trouve qui s'est très bien passé. Il évoque le fait que Martin Bakole sort d'un combat de dernière minute, qu'il a bien fait de prendre financièrement. Ça assure, on va dire, une bonne hygiène de vie à sa famille. Et ça se refuse pas. Il évoque la revanche avec Parker et donne son avis. Et le journaliste lui pose la question, et si Martin Bakole avait été prêt pour affronter Parker, quelle en aurait été l'issue? Je vais vous laisser découvrir la réponse juste après. Vous allez voir, c'est très 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 intéressant. Il parle du combat contre Ajagba, il donne son avis sur la suite. Bon, bref, je ne vais pas vous spoiler davantage. Je vous mets tout de suite l'interview et on se retrouve après.
This isn't a Daily Mail, mate. There's my thumbnail. Andrew McCart, iPhone TV, delighted to be joined by Billy Nelson himself. Billy, how are you, sir? We're in sunny Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. You feeling good?
All good, mate. It's been a very good camp. And I'm really looking forward to Saturday night's performance for the guys.
On talking about Martin, I tell you, when you look at what he looked like in the ring and his weight and stuff like that, looking at him here in this gym, he's worked hard, it looks like, in this camp.
He works hard every camp. He just never had a camp for Parker.
That's true. It's very
he
true.
had his dinner, then he jumped on a plane.
Yeah. Hindsight, though, when you look back at that, going off with the sort of like the flights and taking it such in 24, 48 hours notice, whatever it was, hindsight, right decision for you yourself? Was it the opportunity you just couldn't pass on?
Couldn't pass it by, but it was the financial reward that Martin got for it was magnificent. So he's safeguarded his family's future for life.
And that, I suppose, when you get into boxing, fighters like Martin Bakole, and I suppose every fighter, that's the aim, isn't it? To
every fighter,
get in, get out.
Every fighter. I mean, I've only managed a few fighters, but what you want to do is try and secure a future forever after boxing. As the world's best promoter, Eddie Hearn said, you've got a short window to maximise their earnings. Well, I maximised his earnings, and now you're getting a hard time for it. You can't win.
Well, let's talk about Big Martin Bakole. He's up against Efe Ajagba, a fight that was penciled in anyway before the Joseph Parker fight, but we are here. I spoke to Efe Ajagba yesterday, and I'm telling you what, Billy, he is confident. He's talking a good game. He thinks he's going to go in there and put on a performance and stop Martin Bakole. When you hear a fighter like Efe Ajagba, who is a big puncher, and he says all this sort of stuff,
is he a big puncher?
He's a decent puncher. Hey, but you know yourself,
he's a big puncher.
Yeah, man, we know Martin's a big caller, definitely. When you hear a fighter talk a game like that, talk a good game like that, what does that do for Martin and yourself going into this fight?
Gives you extra impetus to smash him, and that's what he's going to get. He's going to learn what a world level heavyweight, what it's like to face a world level heavyweight on Saturday night.
Martin's obviously no stranger to Riyadh season and the big events and whatnot. He's been to Saudi, he's been to the LA. Efe Ajagba, though, he is a heavyweight that maybe not many people know about, but he has cut his teeth out in the US, which is difficult. That being said, obviously you can't step up on this fight because of what's next. You look at the WBC rankings, Martin's 4, Ajagba's 3. There's more to it on this fight. It might not be a world title on the line, but this is a world. You've got to treat this like a world title fight, don't you, going forward, because of the fights that could be next.
Every fight's a world title fight now for us. We just want the opportunity. Once we take care of business on Saturday night, Martin deserves a turn. He deserves something. You know, whether it be a fine eliminator or a straight shot at a world title against somebody, he deserves it now. You know, Ajagba's a decent fighter. He's a good fighter who hasn't beat very much. Let's be perfectly honest. He got beat with Frank Sanchez, comprehensively beaten against Frank Sanchez. He gets stopped by Caballero. He's a decent puncher. He is a decent puncher. Decent's not good enough to beat Martin Bakole though. Sorry, but it's not. Or it shouldn't be. If Martin Bakole brings his A game, this fight doesn't go by 5 rounds.
You mentioned there about the sort of the shot next after this fight. I know it's a question I should be asking you after the fight, but when you look at the landscape and how do you map out the next fight for Martin Bakole? Obviously the world titles are held up with Dubois Usyk, which I will get your thoughts on. How do you navigate his next fight, or what's the map for his next fight?
Well, you've got to fight somebody very high in the rankings. After this fight, we'll obviously take Ajagba's rankings and possibly we'll move right up in the. We'll be number 3, I think, in the IBF, number 3 in the WBC. We're already 3 or 4 in the WBA. So come on, you've got to be there or thereabouts for some form of title shot, haven't you?
Are you hoping that come July when Usyk faces Dubois that these mandaries get called and then hopefully some of the belts become vacant because of the volume? I know the WBO was called for with Joseph Parker, so I don't know what the situation is there. So are you hoping that some of these belts become vacant and Martin gets his shot?
Well, one of the mandaries has already been called final eliminator, Hrgovic versus Sanchez. Now Sanchez is coming off a victory after being knocked out. He's coming off a victory against a guy that was 18-34. How on earth can you get a final eliminator at the back of that? You know. But listen, the WBC's there. Lawrence Okole's looking for a fight. Let's get that on in Usyk. Daniel Dubois undercard for a final eliminator for the WBC.
I've got to say, away from this, obviously the Joseph Parker fight was the last minute thing, but with the full camp, the Joseph Parker fight.
Well, Martin would have beat Joseph Parker, no problem. No problem.
Is that a fight that you look at for in the future?
We're going to ask His Excellency after this fight if we can get an immediate rematch with Joseph, because I think most top fighters are tied up in fights, and the opportunity if Joseph has Joe got to wait till when would they have to wait till? So July is when they're fighting Daniel and Usyk. So let's surmise that the WBO, if he fights for the WBO, that ain't going to be to Christmas. Has Joe got to wait for February to Christmas before he gets his world title fight? Surely he'll want a fight in between. And I know Joe's a right fighting man and a real man. So I think he would be more than happy to give Martin a rematch once we come through Saturday night.
I agree with you. When you look at Joseph Parker's pedigree and his resume, he doesn't say no. Same as Martin Bakole, so it kind of makes sense, doesn't it? I mean, we all know the story that Martin got off a plane and fought Joseph Parker at the camp and whatnot.
And hurt Joe. Make no mistake, he hurt him twice in that fight because he was blinking quite badly, and then obviously it landed the shot at the top of the head, which can happen in boxing. Technically, it's an illegal shot, by the way, but that happens.
I spoke to Martin and he broke it down for me, and I wouldn't say on camera, but he knows why that shot landed.
Oh, it was a desperation shot.
Yeah,
it was a desperation shot. Joe doesn't throw a right hand like that, a looping right hand over the top. It doesn't. And 9.95 times out of 10, if Martin was in a full camp, 9.5 times out of 10, he'll just simply slip under that right hand and throw you, catch you with a left.
I don't know if I can say it. If I've cut it out, he said it was because of his belly. He couldn't bend down and he had to move his head.
Because he never had a camp, none.
Yeah. That's the funny thing, because when I was talking to him about it, he says I couldn't move, and he was talking about how his belly, he couldn't get under, and that's at least he's honest and he's fair about it.
But how can you can't say anything else, can you?
No, definitely not.
Bon, la famille, on a bien vu Martin Bakole encensé par son entraîneur, et son entraîneur, il a une foi inconsidérable. Franchement, c'est quelque chose, c'est une alchimie qui s'est générée entre eux. Et je pense qu'il parle en connaissance de cause. Il veut la revanche avec Parker. Il sait que Bakole peut la gagner. Et je pense qu'il y aura un call-out. Vous voyez, il dit après le combat d'Ajagba. Ça veut dire, pour lui, il n'y a pas de possibilité que Bakole perde contre Ajagba. C'est juste ouf. On va suivre, les amis, on va suivre dans le détail cette semaine, ces derniers jours avec la pesée, etc. On va rester connecté. Mais son entraîneur, il a eu des mots pertinents. C'est une force pour Martin Bakole. Ajagba, il a qu'à bien se tenir, les amis. J'espère que vous avez passé un bon moment en ma compagnie. Si c'est le cas, n'oubliez pas le pouce qui fait plaisir. Et si ce n'est pas déjà fait, de vous abonner à la chaîne. Dans tous les cas, les amis, je vous dis à très vite. Ciao, ciao.